So, I mean, quite a lot of work was done on my side, even stuff with just the management on our Google Drive. But in terms of the website specifically, there's three tasks that I essentially did. One, I defined all of the auto layouts that exist, so all the relationship between all of the elements. I showed you this in the last, I think, 2 meetings ago, where I showed that this you can define the relationship between elements. Therefore, if you were to add another element, it would just um, put it in place, and as well
Mm.
as it helps with when you're resizing web pages, the relationship between all three elements will stay the same size, right? So the first thing that I did was define all the relationships between the elements, which is auto layout. The second thing that I did was define the restraints, which are not perfect, but I was able to get some ones are successful. So for example, if I resize this, because all these elements here on the side are restrained to the right, some to the top right, some to the bottom right, but essentially they have a relationship with the right side of the screen. When I resize this, you can see everything literally stays in proportion to each other, attached to the right side of the screen, right? And if we go down and we check that relationship, all of this here is in the center, and I've defined it so that when you resize the web page, everything just kind of gets, well, it's not supposed to do that, but essentially everything, including, I think I know the problem. What's supposed to happen is that everything literally, yeah, there we go. So everything just kind of
Yeah.
gets squished into the middle of the screen. What I have to figure out, I guess, while I'm learning Figma, so you see we've resized that, but I have to learn how to let the text respond as well automatically, right?
Mm.
And resize itself. Right now it just recenters itself. But as you can see with the Google web page, let's see. I mean, as you resize the Google web page, not only does it center, I'm not sure if it resizes. So it centers that. Okay, I don't see any resizing going on for Google.
Mm.
But in the example that I saw, it did resize. So I'm not sure if it's the browser that I'm using, the operating system, all these things. I'm still
Yeah.
learning how they all relate to each other and how eventually all of those design elements will translate from Figma to the actual UI of the website. Katla will brief us a little bit on how does that relationship work. Once he's coding the website, is this Figma just a reference, or is he able to use some of these assets somehow within the code? So the first thing I did was all the Hashbits are now up. I also downloaded all
Mm-hmm.
the Hashbits and made a backup of them. Let's see,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I should hide the UI. So I don't know if you can see that, but now all the Hashbits are up for the collections page, and you can kind of see how they will
Mm.
appear. Not only are all the Hashbits up, everything is now delineated in HBAR, right?
Mm.
So I don't know how well that's coming across in the recording, but that's what's happening there. The next thing that I did, so apart from those three foundational tasks, which were my tasks, right, to finish the foundation for the responsive
Mm.
design, I decided to go ahead and start uh, transferring our designs onto a different size screen. So this is, I'll put these together. These are iPad frames.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how the home page will look on an iPad. And
Okay.
this is how the sign-in page looks on an iPad, as well as the sign-up page. Katlawa still has, and I still have to figure out what information he needs on sign-up to know exactly what to put, for example, on this field.
Mm-hmm.
The same with, so the only page that I haven't done is the collections page, which is okay. Maybe that can be, I did start the YouTube page for the community. It was a little bit late, about 3 days late than when I had promised. My hope is that the community can get real deep insight into how we operate, right? Because all of you guys here know how much work has gone behind the project. We've built such a huge back end, and that's just because we're not just, we're not just minting JPEGs or PNGs and trying to sell them to people. We've built a company. So we know how much work that takes, right? We meet up all the time to discuss the going ons of the company. We work on whatever we need to work on. Especially in the beginning, we were a lot more active, and there was not even a set date of when do we work. Now we have some sort of a rhythm going. I thought, as I observe, it's difficult because it seems like communities are a lot more valuable than they have been before, especially online communities, right? So before crypto, there was not a way to monetize digital assets, right? That's the whole point of cryptos, is they've monetized digital assets. And with that has come an onslaught of effects that I don't think we were aware of. So companies are more incentivized to kind of let the community in on the online community in on decisions of how they run their company, right? Not only that, I mean, that's evident in the trend of decentralized autonomous organizations, the idea that communities should have a tangible voice in the running of organizations and companies. The idea that companies can be decentralized, meaning in order to build companies in the past, we had to buy a building, get everybody into this building and organize our activities, right? But as the internet was booming and social media was booming, people were finding more and more ways to organize uh, over vast distances, right? And then they attribute the fast track of businesses working online to COVID-19, but I think it was already inevitably down that path, right? I think we just like to create narratives. So it's a popular narrative that COVID-19 woke everybody up to the importance of online work. But I think just in general, the generation of especially younger people were already looking at ways to collaborate online, were already organizing themselves, were already forming networks and connecting. And I think crypto is an accelerator. I think the real instigator of online and decentralized work is crypto and crypto networks. Really interesting. So as I've said, a culture grew where companies were involving more and more the community in offering products, just having that real-time feedback loop in order to make decisions, allow you to not guess what the customer might want, but to actually just ask them what they might want, right? And I think why crypto is so important is that it poses an immediate threat to companies who are not doing what people want, right? So we don't have to be on Twitter, or one day we won't have to be on Twitter if Twitter won't let me monetize myself in the way that I want. We won't have to be on YouTube and play on their terms, right? Monetize on their terms, and they get a percentage, how they get their percentage. We're realizing more and more the value of content. Remember, for a long time, you thought the value of your content were literally likes and hearts and thumbs ups. You thought that's what your content was worth. And crypto showed you that, JPEGs can be worth millions with the right kind of network behind it. And that's changing how everybody views their content and their efforts. And the complaints that people have had about the monopolization of these platforms, these content platforms, there's now a legitimate avenue. Crypto allows us to have these trustless transactions where I don't need YouTube to facilitate the monetization of my video. We can just kind of do it with a smart contract, right? That's what we've realized. So I thought having a YouTube page and building out, this is a unique experiment. We are building our business in front of people. So they get to see things like what we struggle with when we're late. Usually a company is very polished, right? So here's the product. That's when you find out about a company. But now you find out about companies, they announce, hey, we're building a company. Everybody look here, we're building a company. That seems to be the new trend. And people get to criticize as the company is being built. It poses an opportunity and a cost. It poses an opportunity for us to think about what we'd like to share and what we'd like to protect. It poses questions about security, vulnerability. It comes with its positives and negatives. The positives being a real-time feedback loop about what people want. The negatives being having so many opinions. Sometimes to run an organization, you need one voice leading them all. Right? All of these advantages and disadvantages are manifesting themselves as the result of a new business model, right? That's what people are saying Web3 is. It's a new way of doing business. And we're all kind of just trying to figure out what exactly is this new way of doing business? What gets disrupted and what doesn't get disrupted, right? We're in the age of democracy, not only of opportunity and finances, but of information. And information is now valuable by virtue of what crypto is. So that's just something to think about on a philosophical level as we build our company. The fact that somebody's even going to hear parts of this conversation and really get into how our organization is planning its strategy, right? How we plan to carry out our business. That's something crazy, and it's testament to exactly what we're talking about. That little rant aside, I did create the YouTube video, and the idea of the YouTube video is to give people real-time insights on how the project is coming along. So I think I took notes from Hedera's YouTube channel. So as they're building new products, they have things called engineering insights, where the developers share what's going on with the development of new things when they launch on testnet, when they launch on mainnet. The idea that code is now open source. So a company does not hide how it operates. It's like, here's the code. This is Hedera. Collaborate how you will. Sorry?
I'm saying that they finally open sourced it, right?
They've announced, so I think let me get this right. I think that the governing council have bought the intellectual property from the original owners of the Hedera consensus algorithm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've officially already made the move, but they've announced that Hedera is now going open source. The purchase has been made. That was always part of Mance and Lehman's vision, that one day Hedera will be open source, right? Even the intellectual property contract has a date where it expires. Even they roll out, Hedera never wanted to be a centralized network. So they just wanted a methodical rollout, starting off with selected nodes, right, run by the governance council and people you could trust, and then moving over to, I think they call them, I don't know, I might be getting it wrong, but moving over to community nodes and then individual nodes. I think, yes, the next step is community nodes, where one would have to apply to run a node and meet certain criteria, and then eventually just public nodes, right? So any member of the public can run a node on Hedera. That has always been part of the plan. So people that usually criticize Hedera criticize them for where they are at, not where they've always wanted to go. So now you can't, I remember Charles Hoskinson, he's the founder, I think, of the third or fourth biggest cryptocurrency in the world, Cardano. His main criticism of Hedera was that it's
not open source.
It's not open source. So he wouldn't even read the white paper because it was patented, right? The technology was patented. And now we don't have those criticisms anymore. So, I mean, just even on that, seeing Hedera go through that process and seeing people in real time criticizing Hedera, and just seeing how it's fortified. I don't know, it has some sort of a grounding in what it's building, right? So it's building, when you're building something solid, you stand on solid ground. Seeing it deal with all of that criticism and still succeed as a network up until the point where it's now doing what it said it's going to do. I don't think we've seen a lot of that. Like, we've never gotten to witness businesses going through that. They just offer a product and it's like, use the product. But in today's day and age is like a lot more digitally literate, right? We used to say that in film school, we used to say that today's day and age is a lot more film literate, meaning you don't have to show the guy walking up to the door, holding the handle, twisting the handle, pulling the door open. You don't have to do that anymore. In today's day and age of film, you walk up to the door and he's on the other side. And the film, because of the literacy we've built for film, we know that, oh, he walked through that door. But I guess what I mean when I say digitally literate, I mean that we demand a lot more from our companies. We need to know where our data is going. We need to know how our data is stored, whether our data is protected. There's all these cases going on in the US when it comes to data privacy. And we've seen the effects of letting companies do whatever they want with our data. So we live in a different time. We want more ethical companies. We want companies that are run with sustainable energy. We care about that now. We care about what's in our food. And we're just evolving as a society. So having a real feedback loop, right? A space to make mistakes a space to make decisions and have the community react in a negative way and then change those decisions. I think the next resilient company is the company that knows how to correct course well, and not really a company that does not make mistakes. We created a YouTube channel. We share our insights in real time. I hope that with everything I've communicated, that the community gets a sense of what we'd like to build with them. They get a sense of responsibility. You know,